words of my mouth and the thoughts and meditations of our hearts be ever acceptable unto you, O God, our strength and our deliverer. Amen. You may be seated. Today you may be forgiven to think that we've gone back to the month of September, just looking at the number of creatures that are mentioned in our readings today. In Isaiah, we've got there the mention of wolves, lambs, leopards, goats, kids, calf, lion, little child, ox, asp, and adder, and John the Baptist in the Gospel reading mentions a viper. So many animals. You'd be forgiven if you thought we are in the season of creation. But we know that we are not in the season of creation when we read then the New Testament reading from Romans, because that makes things a bit clearer. Here, Paul addresses a church that was a mix of Gentiles and Jews, and actually encourages them to live in harmony and in peace, the opposite of which would be violence, abuse, and aggression. It's a problem then, as it might be today. And so today's lessons, more than anything, they're not much about the animals. They're about us. But the mention of lots of animals in the book of Isaiah, the Old Testament reading, took me back to one of my favorite movies of all times, from 2003, called Finding Nemo. I'm sure quite a number of you know that film. A beautiful movie with sea creatures, and there's a scene in there that is very similar. At least it seems to be something of a parody of what happens in Isaiah. I don't know what the writers had in mind when they put that bit in. And that has to do with the 3 sharks that had made a decision to stop eating fish, to go vegan. And they had a pledge that they had agreed. But in this scene, first we meet the leader Bruce. There's also Cham, I can't remember the name of the third one. And they had organized a party to take this commitment a step further. They were each going to bring a little friend who they would have otherwise eaten to this party to kind of test themselves if they're living out their pledge. And the pledge itself went something like this: I am a nice shark, not a mindless eating machine. If I am to change this image, I must first change myself. Fish are friends and not food. Now these are 3 sharks making a commitment to stop being aggressive and violent and abusive to little fish in the sea. We all know how it ends up. It goes up and down, and there's some backsliding here and there. They made this commitment. Now this reminds me of the image that we are given in Isaiah, where the wolf and the lamb seem to be fraternizing with each other. Leopard and the goat's kid don't have a problem with each other. The lion and the lamb are lying side by side, and the lion and the bear deciding to go vegan, go green, and not eat meat. But as I said in the beginning, these readings, more than anything, are about us. They're not about the animals. We know that as South Africans, and just as human beings, we live in a world full of aggression, full of violence, full of hostility, full of all the things that can break community and break people. I don't have to go through a list of these forms of aggression. We are South African enough, and I think we understand that. Now, I'm told by experts who study these things that there are a number of forms of aggression, and they list 5. And these aggressions, each in turn, can turn into full-blown violence or abuse if they are carried on over a long period. There is the most obvious one, which might be, you might know all of us, physical. Kicking, hitting, scratching, punching. And all of these might come from just hating somebody, or from just being frustrated with bottled up whatever it is, and you snap and you express this aggression. Another form of aggression is verbal aggression, shouting, swearing, cruel remarks, and the one that we know very much as South Africans, especially from our history, which is hate speech, or white people are just like that, or colored people are just like that, Indians are like that, those blacks don't expect anything different, or those gay people over there are like that, or those foreigners over there are like that. That is a form of aggression, put in words, and drawing borders, and circumscribing how far we can go with each other, if anywhere at all. The third form of aggression, which has to do with relationships, is a bit more insinuated. And that's where people use tactics like playing friends against each other, playing a chess game to play friends against each other, throwing in gossip and bullying, and these things touch on people's reputations. This we know very well in the world, in the church, in our families, and I'm sure around Christmas when you meet with your relatives, some of these things might bubble up. Relational aggression, where we don't face each other, but we create situations that create an image and a reputation of our others. And how you met them yesterday is different from what you meet today, because there was a conference behind closed doors. And then you have also a reaction to that might try to undo that, and the spiral goes on. It is a form of aggression. There's hostile aggression, where the environment is just made in such a way that you know you're not welcome. You just walk in and emotionally you know that things are not right. Whatever made things to be like that, there seems to be an unwritten sign that says you're not welcome. And there's a form of aggression that we've come to know very well through sitcoms. Passive aggressive, which is not passive at all. Passive aggression is not passive at all. It uses humor, sarcasm to stab a wound in somebody else's heart. These are forms of aggression for whatever reason. It might be that people become aggressive in this manner because they think they need to defend themselves against whatever it is that they're aggressing against. It might just be that they're mean people or any shade in between. John the Baptist, when he addresses those who come to be baptized by him, he notices among them Sadducees and Pharisees who are coming in large numbers. And of course, if you read the Gospels, you'll understand that Jesus points them out as some form of aggressors against the kingdom of heaven. A lot of arguments between Jesus and the Pharisees and the Sadducees, but Jesus was not the only one. John also had noticed this. And as they come forward, he says to them, "You brood of vipers," or in simple English, "you children of snakes, who warned you of the wrath to come?" But baked in that, there's also an acknowledgement that they are coming forward remorsefully to want to change that. And not that different from the three sharks that we met in Finding Nemo. They want to make a difference. They want to make a change in their lives. They want to stop aggressing against the kingdom of heaven, which is of peace and harmony. And so there we are. I want us to go back to Finding Nemo, because even with that sort of commitment, even with a form of remorse, we know we are human beings who are not perfect. We might make a commitment and slip and slide and backslide. And we find that as well in Finding Nemo. There are these three sharks that invite their small little friends to a party where they're going to test themselves to see if they really are going to turn vegan. They're not going to eat fish, and they're not even pescatarian. They're not going to touch fish. And what happens in that movie is that they gather. Bruce, who's their leader, comes with, he didn't have any small partner, but then he managed to get two of them. Dory, the naive Dory, Dory the fish, and Marlon, Nemo's father, looking for his son. He's got this two instead of just one fish. And he kind of tells him, "We're going to a party." If you remember that, beautiful. And when he gets to a point, he meets his two other friends, and he says, "Well, here we are. Have you brought your friends?" And one of them raises their fin. And there's this one little petrified little fish, not knowing what's about to happen, shaking underneath his fin, because no sharks. These ones have committed themselves to being different. The other one, he tries to give a story like, it's been a week since I've been eating fish. Yay! And they clap hands. And as he's talking, he opens his mouth and there's a little fish skeleton hanging on one of his lower teeth. It backslid. Okay, Bruce being nice, because he's got two fish. He says, well, I'll lend you one. One of my friends. And the party goes on. Before the party could go on, tragedy. Smell of blood. Bruce goes crazy. Triggers are pushed, and his aggression comes up. Just flares up and says, I'm going to have fish for dinner today. You know, we are like that. But the good thing is that they've made a commitment that gives them a chance to go back. Similar to how we say our confession here every Sunday, no matter how many times we backslide, hoping that God would meet us on our way and make us less aggressive people. So John says, mend your ways so that you may welcome the Prince of Peace. Mend our aggressive ways that may turn violent and abusive in our community, in our families, in our churches, in our country, in the world, because they make for nothing good. He says, change your ways. De-viper yourself. De-aggress yourself. Find ways to de-escalate conflict and violence. It's not about anyone else, it's about us. It's about us. John says, be like the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Be like the ones who heeded the warning that if you don't do this, the wrath that's to come is a terrible one. Mend your ways. Make straight paths for the Lord. Take a step back. So I'm going to leave you with two advices. You can't deal with everything when you talk about these issues. We see two clear ways that are put before us. The first one is that of remorse, that we see the Pharisees and the Sadducees, who, even though spoken to harshly by John the Baptist, do not give up. They still want to be baptized. Let us find ways of examining ourselves, finding ways of being truly and fully remorseful for the aggression that we tend to spread. Number two, perhaps let's be like those three sharks. Make a commitment that we can go back to. If need be, use similar commitments that we see and read in our prayer books. To be like sharks that promise to not eat fish, knowing that that movie is not about sharks and fish, it is about us. And thus we can mend our ways, make paths straight as we prepare ourselves to meet